IVM.
Welcome to Absolutely Right. This is your host Aditi Surana. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode, which is a free-flowing conversation based on graphology. Yeah, also known as handwriting analysis. I will be interviewing our guest Ayushi Amin, the co-host of IVM's popular show Agla Station Adulthood. Besides being Ritasha Rathod's partner in crime on their beloved podcast, Ayushi works in her commodity-based family business. Ayushi enjoys walking the line between the creative and business worlds. You may wonder, what would you learn by listening to Ayushi's conversation about her own life? How would it help you? So here are some key takeaways from today's conversation. First, receiving feedback can be a tough thing for most of us. However, it's interesting to observe Ayushi, who is willing to explore essential areas of her personality in spite of all the discomfort that she feels. Second, we all form some opinion and definition of ourselves. But some of these definitions can turn limiting as we change and grow. Ayushi and I discuss ways in which you can question these limiting and fixated ideas. Third one, how the sense of feeling stuck is about feeling stagnant. We feel these emotions when we do not grow internally or externally. Ayushi will be joining us on the other side of this short break. We will jump right in the action. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, welcome to another amazing week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. While we're still going through lockdown, let me recommend a few quick shows for you to listen to. Check out Uncle Please Sit with Joel and Tushar. Really enjoy that show. They unpack some of the greater issues that we're facing, and I think you'll enjoy that. Also, do check out The Traveling Professor. That's a fun show that I think you're really going to enjoy as well. Fulia Bazi is a great show. It's a Hindi show about policy and things like that. They had a great episode last week. A close friend of mine from college, Joy Paul, was the guest. They talk about different social networks being used for different things. Very cool show. And lastly, let me tell you about Simplified. Simplified did a live episode last week, and we're making the first part of that available on their feed right now. So do definitely check that out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And with that, let's continue with your show.
Hi, Ayushi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
It's okay. Currently, slight frustration levels are high because of the whole setup and how much it took us to get to this point. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it was. We really needed a lot of struggle today before we could start this recording. So I am really amused to look at your bio that I received in the morning, and we haven't met before. So I'm really curious to know about your interest, one in like completely technical space and another one in completely creative. So what is it and how did it begin?
Well, first I should just add that the bio that I sent you was something that I had to send to IVM way back when we started our show, Agla Station Adulthood, casual plug. And we had to give something to, I think, one of the newspapers or something to start it. And I had never written something about myself in like a promotional way. So this is what I came up with. I'm super embarrassed by it, but Sumit asked, I was like, okay, this is all I have on hand. Here you go. For answering your actual question, which is how did I get into both these spaces? Well, professionally, I've always been interested, because I studied international relations, I was actually very interested in politics, to be very honest. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go into policy and perhaps even speech writing and things like that was very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I was very inspired and idealistic as a kid growing up. Then once you start studying and you realize that this is obviously not what you thought it was going to be. Okay. And I realized that instead of getting into policy, I would rather work in a space where I could actually give back to a community in a more productive way. And I really believe that I've always been interested in policy, and because my family business has been in the commodity sector, in like food, agriculture, commodities, grains, and stuff like that, it was a easy shift for me because I still got to deal in policy and see on a daily basis how a government works and how it affects trade and how it affects different commodity like cycles world over. And I got to be part of my family business, which like legacy and all those things was very important to me. So this was a very interesting shift for me, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I love my job. I love being able to work at a company where I actually have ownership, because it makes me, I think those kind of things really inspire me to work harder, because I have worked in, I used to work in an investment research company before. Yeah, I used to work in investment research before, and it was very like, I'll go in, I'll do my job, and then I'll leave. Like, I don't give a shit. Don't call me on a Sunday. But here, because you're so much more invested, I think it makes you a better worker. At least for me, it makes me a better worker. And as for creatively with the podcast, that was just an accident, a really happy accident. My co-host Ritasha Rathore, she had come in to do an episode with Cyrus, and she met Kavita at the time, and they were like, "Oh, we should do something together. Let's work together." And Ritasha didn't want to do it alone, so she said, "I just have one person in mind." And Kavita said, "I would like to try a whole bunch of people," but I went in as Ritasha's friend because we've been best friends for honestly like 10, 12 plus years now. Wow. And we did one test pilot episode. And Kavita she was like, "No, this is it. I found the chemistry. I find the vibe perfect." And then
I must say this.
We've just run with it.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I must say this. Kavita recently posted her favorite podcast, and your podcast is one of her favorite podcasts that she looks up to, and she loves listening to it. So,
yeah. Actually, we have a really good time doing it, and I really enjoy asking Kavita for her opinion, because I feel like because on our show, we call it Agla Station Adulthood, right? Where the entire journey of adulthood is kind of compared to a train, and each station is a different episode / like life hurdle you might have to get through. And so every time we come up with an idea, sometimes you run it by her and we're like, when you're like a baby adult and you're trying to do this, and she's always like, "Yes, I've been through that. I've been through that. I can attest that is definitely an adulthood problem." So it's really nice having her input in it, and it's been great. It's been really great. I'm having the best time doing it.
Oh, how nice. So today we're going to speak about different aspects of your personality. And I believe people who hear your show are very curious about who are these girls, exactly what their perspective is, what do they do and what do they think about, who they are as people. Now we're going to dive deep in your personality, but the show goes two ways. The format of our conversation goes two ways. One, I would make some comments, but more importantly, I would like you to ask me questions about things that you're pondering about, things that are important to you at this point in time. So I can elaborate, speak about it, we can dive deeper. So it's a both way thing. So, you're gonna actually take the conversation wherever you would like to, and I would follow along.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So do you have any questions?
Can I be very honest?
Yes, please.
Like when when you asked me to send this handwriting thing, in my mind I was like, this is shit. Like, what is she going to be able to tell me about myself from the handwriting? My handwriting changes morning to night. My handwriting changes within 1 hour. It becomes different. When I'm writing in an exam, the first page and the last page is like two dynamically different people. So
I hear you.
No matter how consistently I try to write, like when I was writing these 10-15 lines for you, I was like, okay, just write as naturally and as comfortably as you can. But I was like, this will not be the same writing 30 lines later.
Right.
So I was like, so I genuinely had reservations in terms of like, I don't know what you're going to be able to tell me. That's whether it's going to be accurate or not, because I have doubt on my own handwriting. Let's put it that way. Not so much on your like interpretation of things, but more that I don't think mine is consistent.
So I'm so happy that you are saying this, because I feel many a times when people hear about my work, they're like, this can't work and this is bullshit. And I have heard this on my face. I've heard this, as comments on our work that we do, online social media. So thank you for saying it as is, because I can address the question and we can really talk about whether it really works, or if it works, why it works. Okay. So before I get in and I talk about it, I'm going to just talk about certain behavioral traits that you have to set the context, and then I will come and answer the question. Is that fine?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the way you can listen to people. You come across as a talkative person, but you are highly observant. You keep observing minute details that people give away in their conversations, in their pauses, in the way they speak, not what they speak, but the way they speak. But because you are so enthusiastic and you're always connecting to people, they think you might not notice it. And when they come back to you, and when they give you some bullshit, when they give you some excuse, you have already seen through it. But you rarely confront people, so they are not even aware that you do it. It is your way of communicating with people. You just keep observing. But after a few months, after a few weeks, if I ask you, what do you think about that person? then you have this complete analytical way of expressing why you say, what are the points, and what was your analysis based on these really, really acute observations.
Witch! You're a witch! A sorcerer!
That's the last thing I want to hear. Ayushi, but see that.
This is fully black magic. You have gone through my phone or something. You're spying on me.
Yeah, for last 5 years.
Are you kidding? You got that from my writing?
Yes, I don't know you otherwise, Ayushi. So only your writing.
Yeah, no. Like I don't know you. I literally have never even seen. Oh my god! Oh my god! Tell me more. Now I'm hooked. I'm in.
Okay, so if you're hooked, let me get to the answer, and then I'll come to your further analysis. So basically, it doesn't matter whether you are writing regularly or not, whether your handwriting changes or not. Handwriting is a snapshot of your brain, pretty much your brain. So all the choices that we make, all the thoughts that we think, constantly create chemical reactions in our brains, creating neural pathways. Your handwriting is a snapshot of that kind of map that we build by thinking different thoughts all the time. Now, your handwriting changes. Yes, it does. And it must if it is representing you at some level, because you are changing constantly. The handwriting has three parts. One is something that changes constantly, which means with your mood, morning, evening, 30 lines, it must change because as a person, you are constantly thinking new thoughts. Second one is kind of permanent, but kind of because it changes after few months, few years. So your school writing was very different to your college writing till now. So no, it's not about practice. It's about the changes that you're going through as a person. And lastly, some parts of writing never change. So the one which I spoke about, you being observant has been a consistent trait for you throughout. So I would look at things which are permanent, which are changing over a period of time, and which are changing every single day, and then make a comment. So it is a study which is like psychology. It is very closely associated with our behavioral patterns. So there is no magic, unfortunately. There's nothing that I'm kind of bringing and like knowing about you. Probably I would word it differently for every person. That I think that is matter of like art, because it's artistic to talk to every person, and then you use different words, different examples. But the point that I'm making is very mathematical. Handwriting works like with complete math and complete precision. You look at 3 millimeters stroke formation and you say, oh, that end of it means this particular formation, like that. So what questions do you have now?
This is witchcraft.
Okay. What questions do you have?
I don't even know what to ask you. I feel scared now. Tell me something like really deep and dark. um, I think you are right about certain things, which is why I'm obviously taken aback. Observant is something that I actually know this about myself because I really enjoy, like, one of my favorite pastimes is people watching.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love just to watch people. And in the sense, like, you know how some people they don't like airports, they don't like airplanes, they don't like waiting in lines, they don't like, being in really crowded situations where you just have to sit around and do nothing. I don't mind at all because, I mean, look, I'm not saying that I like to stand in line endlessly for fun. That's lame. But
no, I hear you.
I really try to make some sort of game out of it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. It's one of my favorite things to do. So
yeah, I like to. And I love making like little stories about people in my head, or I like to see people interacting with each other. Like, I love seeing a family interact with them within themselves. It's just endlessly fascinating to me, because I think in a way it's kind of like a little window into how I like to see it. Is that there's so many things that are consistently the same with families across the board, and then there are some things that are so unique. And I love to see which are the things that are exactly the same, whether it's my family or yours, or like even if it's someone completely culturally different from you, and then seeing stuff that really sets them apart. But this is just really interesting because I enjoy doing these things, and I like it, and I like to file it away in my mind for later, and then kind of visit it or write about it or like make a joke. And this kind of even goes into, like, I love doing accents because I love picking up the weird things that people say in the weird way that they say it, which is why this is weird.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy we began here. So please do some accents for us during the conversation whenever you feel like. Now, one another aspect which I feel stands out when I look at your writing is your clear intent. Anything and everything that you pick up, you have clear intent, and you do not pick it up, you do not begin the journey unless and until you do not have that clarity. Now, that sometimes people wonder, why are you taking so much of time to decide? It's such a small thing. Why are you not, following what other people should do? But you do take time. It is one of your things that you must do.
Stop. I stop. Just stop. Please stop. I can't. Yeah, I can't do this. This is so weird. I feel like I'm at, like, like a fair, like a fun fair, and there's like someone with a magic ball telling me, like, oh, you are like this, you are like that, but they're getting it right.
I'm gonna give you a minute to like
go on. Good.
Okay. So when we look at that decision making pattern and that clarity that you bring to the table, that it is really important for you that you operate from it. It is very, very important for you to. So overall, every choice is decided by what you thought you wanted to do. Every specific idea is built carefully. And now, can I just step in? I'm just taking a moment to repeat the point because I'm like, I have a point to make here. So I was speaking about the clarity with which you function. So every task that you pick up, you have an end result in mind. And that end result matters to you a lot. Now, it's not that you would not make changes or you would not change your plans, but it's important that in your mind, even when things are going completely upside down and you don't have any clue, in your mind, you keep reaching out to the idea that you had to begin with. And that's how you deal with many, many problems. If whatever goes wrong, you're like, okay, but what I had in mind, or where did we want to go when we began the journey? And that matters to a lot. That's like your guiding star. That's how you function. So over to you. Now, if you want to ask me specific questions about something that you're dealing with, we can really dive deep and we can solve it, or I can build a different perspective altogether. The idea of keeping this conversation raw and open was also this, not ours, but overall the format, is people generally struggle to speak about things that are bothering them. And when we discuss it, when you bring a point, they also start relating to their emotion, their journey, their struggles. And in the way I would probably bring in different perspective, they can resolve it indirectly. Sometimes when you watch a movie or hear a story, it's easier to find your own answer because you're not a part of it. You're literally you're playing an observer to the situation. So we are doing the same thing here, and that's the objective of, in a way, putting you in a spot without giving you a lot of information about what we're gonna do, so that it becomes raw and it remains real.
So I don't know if you've ever heard our show, but essentially the entire format is it's a conversation between Natasha and I, but she takes a very casual, laid back approach to it, where it's kind of like, okay, she's just going to go with the flow in the moment, whereas I like to do a lot of research before looking at a topic. I'm like, how does this actually relate to our demographic or our natural human experience? And I like to find statistics, and I'm not saying that I file these statistics away and they're constantly in my head. I wouldn't be able to pull everything off the top of my head right now for you if you were to ask, but I like to look at a situation based on the numbers, only because I think it brings credibility. Like, I don't like to speak from a place of having no background in it. I would rather, in a conversation where I don't know anything, and that's kind of like, I think, an evolution of mine, like growing up, in my maturing. Like when I was younger, I was ready to have any conversation, very feisty, ready to go, like just be like, no, you're wrong, and this is X, Y, Z, Y.
Right.
Whereas now, having truly like taken that time to work on yourself,
Yep.
I think something that I've started doing is kind of just keep quiet, assess before you jump into a situation. And I think that's why this kind of a format, while it's exciting and it's new and you're basically some sort of witch, I like it is unnerving for me. Like, it is unnerving because I don't really know where you're going to go with it.
Right.
And I don't know where you're allowed to go with it, or what like your boundary is, or, because I also don't know you. So it's a very weird thing to speak to someone so personally, having no connection with them, but then you seem to have a very incredibly nuanced insight into my life.
Yep. I hear you.
Like, this is not even in an insulting way. This is just me like having that conversation.
Of course.
Like it for me as a person, this is like, this is not fun for me to like talk about myself in this space.
So we can,
but I'm saying that what is comforting to me is that you've brought some sort of weird credibility to the conversation by being right about whatever you said so far.
Okay.
So I will try to speak to you. Is there anything that you would like me to talk about in particular?
No, I think, I understand, and I'm sensing this. I'm sensing that you are really shocked at this moment. So I don't want to step into an area which you're not ready to talk about right now. So that's why I'm opening the conversation to you, and whatever you think you would like to speak about, we can talk about it. We can really speak about general things, because at the end, we want to make sure that it brings value to you, to our listeners, and the conversation becomes meaningful. Then whichever way you think you can derive meaning, even if you want to talk about things you're curious about, we can discuss that. So there is no hard and fast rule. I'm literally saying we are dancing, and wherever you take this choreography, I'm going to follow you. So let's have that no boundary kind of conversation. Wherever you want to take it, I'm up for it.
My least favorite kind of conversation, the one without boundaries. Okay, as a question, just out of curiosity, when you look at like a sheet of paper with handwriting on it, whoever's it is, what's like the first thing that jumps out at you?
So I trained myself a lot, as you said, part of growing up. Initially, I used to have this whole idea of I want to say the first thing that would make an impact and all of that. Eventually, I realized that that's really exciting, but also immature way of functioning. Because at the end, the session or the conversation is designed for the other person.
Right.
So, every single session, even if I'm meeting the same person over and over again in my coaching scenario, it's literally like a new conversation because you don't meet the same person again and again. All of us change, right? Every day we are new people. So I do not have any idea of what I'm going to speak about. I literally take the sheet and the first thought that comes to my mind, I speak that out loud. And it's very beautiful. It's very organic. People say, oh, this is one of the toughest things, most important thing for me. How do you know? Why did you say this as a first thing? Like, no clue why did I say it as a first thing. But I think contrary to you, I really love having no boundaries. I love jumping in and figuring it out. I think that's how I live my life, or also I do my sessions. So I look at the sheet and the first thing that catches my eye, I speak about it. And I believe also when my objective is to speak only those things that can help you, then I am fully committed to do that service. I'm not like thinking what I want to say. That helps.
Okay, that's interesting. I think like something that's always, it was a line in just a very random book that I read. It was young fiction, I'm pretty sure, like many, many years ago. And in that, this person was taking art classes or something like that. And one line that always stuck with me was when the art teacher tells the student, it's like, you have to learn the rules before you break them. And that's kind of stuck with me a lot, to not just like professionally, but even when it comes to relationships. I, as a person, and I think perhaps,
Okay.
maybe there is a slim possibility that this is not the best way to engage with people all the time, because it does like hamper my ability to because, okay, let's put it this way. If I don't see any gain from it, because to me the structure is already set, I'm like, okay, but you're not fulfilling XYZ, all these different little boxes that I've created for you to function within. If I don't see any gain from it in like within the first 4 interactions or within the first week, I'm kind of like, this is a waste of everyone's time. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time, because you don't fit in you don't fit in this at all. Whereas I can fully accept that as an adult, I know that that's not how the world works or how everyone works. Like, there is a lot of fluidity in relationships and getting to know people, and the beauty and the art of a relationship is this wonderful roller coaster journey. Yeah, I get it. But I do struggle with that. And that's something that I'm working on, which I think something as silly as online dating really helps, because you don't know anyone from Adam.
Yep.
Like the whole concept of the Hinge or Bumble. And it's like, because you have very limited information to work on, it really tests me in terms of like how much I can engage with a person not knowing them. And
Ayushi, imagine me, I cannot think of online dating. Because the first thing the person would ask me, oh, would you look at my handwriting? And if that happens, there is no use of online dating. It's like already knowing so much about the person. What's the point?
Can you come with me on my online
Or why don't you ask the person to send your handwriting? Why don't you use here? Yeah, you'll have so much of information already.
That's all
that
I want.
defeats the purpose.
I know it defeats the purpose, but I think what bothers me mainly about this whole like knowing and getting to know people is that in my life, I have good relationships, touch wood, like with my friends, with my family, with my sibling, with even my colleagues. I would say I have a pretty solid relationship because I've worked on it, and I have allowed it to develop over a long period of time. And it's only because I've been able to give it so much time that I've been able to sort of transcend or overcome that internal thing of this is taking too long to get to know a person.
Right.
It's because I've had that time. But I think the only reason I think what I'm trying to say is in this thing of getting to know someone with dating or in a relationship or like in this romantic sense, I don't like to give this person more time, because in my mind, I feel like I've already filled up the bank of time. Like I'm like, I have spent enough time getting to know people. I have those people in my life. Like it's done. They're set. My little box of crayons is pretty much full. I have all the colors I like. I'm not really looking for anything so spectacularly new. I think what I keep looking for is like someone who will fit in with this box well and like just complete that set. But perhaps that's not the best way to get to know someone.
I do not know whether it's the best way to know or not, or function or not, but let me speak about something slightly different. Because your family provided such a clear sense of security, such a clear sense of how they would love you, and you have accepted that as the ideal scenario when it comes to relationships, you really look for people who would fit the template. Now, the template is very, very clear. Now, should you break the template? We don't know, because probably that works for you to have people who fit into the scenario. But a part of you that is really adventurous doesn't allow you to settle in with the templatized personality also.
Yes.
And this is where the contradiction happens. So, you could have really gone around meeting people in your social circle, and people who fit that box and fit that crayon box clearly. But that is not what you feel excited about. And this is where the challenge is. So we cannot go one way or another. We have to constantly we have to constantly keep in mind that, I think you have this conclusion about you, and I would request you to question it at any point in time in the future by observing yourself in the scenario. You think you like to play very safe, but when I look at your handwriting, I don't see that. I don't see that person you're describing, because the person
my handwriting is so like neat and standard. Like it's very like it's always been the same curly cursive. Like it's not.
It doesn't matter. The handwriting, like every handwriting, is analyzed based on 800 permutations and combinations. There's not one stroke over another. It's literally like there are minute pressure points and spacing between alphabets that reveal information. So what you're looking at is a generic formation. I'm looking at those micro movements of your writing stroke. So coming to the point, so when you feel that you're this safe playing person, I think you do that when you're accountable to other people. It matters to you that if you have said that you would deliver something, that you deliver and you give your best shot. That's your work ethics, or that's your credibility as a person or as a professional. But when it comes to your life and your relationship, if given a choice, do you cook by any chance?
Yeah.
And you do not. Yeah, and you do not like your recipe to be exactly the same way every time you cook. You want it to surprise you in a different way. You want to follow a structure, but at the same time, you want to do something that would bring a different kind of flavor, and you wonder what would that be.
Why? This is so weird. I have to tell Kavita, I can't do this again. I cannot do this episode. I can never do this again with you. Like, this is too much. And this is in lockdown. Do you understand? I have so much time now to think about this entire bloody
Oh my God. But we can talk. If that helps you, we can talk even after the call. So don't worry.
No, but I am enjoying this. This is really cool. Like, this is the first time can we date? Because it seems like you already know me.
I think we should consider. This is quarantine. We are already online. I've seen you. I kind of like you. Let's do that.
Yes, because I won't have to tell you things about myself. Like I'll just write you letters and then you figure out.
figure out more than this? Okay, I'm in for it. I like it.
But
So
okay, so the cooking thing, right?
yes,
Like,
so when you want that, you really want that even in your relationship. You want that person to surprise you, but at the same time, you want to play it by the recipe. So would you go and do something dramatically different? No, you wouldn't. But you would do something different to make it slightly different, bring that nuance, bring something that you had not thought about, and that's how you keep the balance. So remember this about yourself. Like many a times, even for our listeners, it's important that once we describe ourselves in a certain way, we tend to believe this is who I am. And we try to fit our life experiences in that framework that we have built about ourselves at some point. It might not be something that you're today. Probably you were like this few years ago. So it's important that we keep questioning who we are, because one of my favorite quotes that I keep talking about is your personality is only a sum total of everything that you have been, everything that you have done, everything that you have experienced till this moment. It doesn't mean that this is who you will be in the future, but it just gives you a reference point to look at the world from. And that is only a reference point that we are talking about, which is true right now. But as you would change, it would change. And because people keep repeating the same patterns, they constantly keep creating the same personality.
this has been very interesting. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is really cool. I do think, however, your best one was the first thing that you said, which is about like the observing. And because I'm not very confrontational, it can be like months or weeks before someone asks me something and I'm like, that's not even who you are. That's a lie.
Yep.
That one, I would have filed that away. I'm telling my mom about this. I would tell my mom. This is fun.
So I feel also I have this feeling, Ayushi, that you're feeling this is scary because generally you're the one doing this. You are the one observing and reading between the lines. And now you're like, oh my God, who's this person? How can she read me? And how can she read between the lines? I hear you.
Yeah, because I also feel like something that's happened over the last couple of years is because I'm a woman working in a fairly male-oriented industry. There's a lot of myself that now professionally I have to keep shutting off because I'm like, no, I don't want to show this part. I only want to show like a very, like, for lack of a better word, like hardcore, to the point, very cut and dry kind of a person. So when you don't show the other softer aspects of yourself on design, then the only people who know that are the ones that are already in your life.
Sure.
So I'm just surprised that someone who doesn't know me has been able to see something that I have tried over the last couple of years to hide, not like all the time, but at least professionally tone it down only because I need to get the
Of the
job
situation.
done.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Like I don't need
So
to spend time analyzing.
when I started working, I was 18 and a half. And by 25, I was coaching people who were really senior. And because, the work became about accuracy and conversations, people gave me a chance to coach them. But they were like 45-year-old people all the time. And when I was 26, I realized that a whole day, every week, I'm speaking only to these old people. And I forgot that young, enthusiastic person that I was. And I just started becoming this straight jacket, very, very clear,
Yeah.
like person in every walk of my life. So last 2 years have been difficult for you also because of this decision that you made. If you're going and doing, and I'm very happy you're doing the podcast because it allows you to be all crazy and then you go back and you just do what is required and then you come back and you just like, be the girl that you want to be, and then you go back and again become the woman that you require to be. Very interesting.
Thanks. This has been eye-opening, and I'm now going to think 10 times before I write a sentence. Not because I'm going to know how to do it, but just because I'm like, oh, what does my R mean
Today.
today? Is there is there like other stuff to this, or I don't know. I've never been on one of your episodes. I don't know how long you guys do an episode or how much longer I can.
It depends on if you wanna speak about it. If you have questions, we can speak more. No problem.
I don't actually have questions. I just want to know like more things about me from my
Okay.
handwriting.
So if you ask me in a specific direction, you ask me a question that you think this is true, but I'm not fully clear, that would help because then I know which boundary to cross and which I shouldn't be crossing. I understand this is not the easiest conversation, so I want to make
Okay. No, no, no. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I can ask you a question. Okay. What do I think of myself that I don't know whether it's true or not? Okay. So I think that I have a lot of ideas and I get like ambitious and I get like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I have this crazy idea. I have this idea. But then I have problem following through on a lot of these
Mm.
things. Like I get excited with the project and then if it isn't consistently exciting, then I kind of let it just drop off. And I'm scared that that's going to like hamper my actual professional life because I let it, like I put that little partition, like this is the creative stuff, this is like your professional stuff. And I wish I had more conviction to try all the other thing, but I think the minute I lose a little bit of interest in it, I'm just like, it's done. The interest is gone. So I'm very scared that that's gonna like fall into my professional life when I have a project to deal with, and if it doesn't excite me, then I'm just gonna give up on it. And that's not how you can work. Like that's not life.
Oh. So, first thing first, I feel when you work, you have very, very high standards of how you would deliver something. But your creative desires, your creative interests are your outbursts of energy. And you should understand this very, very clearly. Now, when you see the way you've chosen your career, you've made most of your choices, it also comes from the fact that you love being intellectually stimulated. You love walking into areas where nobody has gone. You love going there and figuring out the best possible solution. You love it. And when you don't have problems, you create them. You kind of find ways to
Yes, yes. Oh my God. I create more problems for myself than anyone else in my life.
Yes. So you understand this problem solving is your best friend. Now, when you get excited about an idea, you look at it and you say, "Oh my God, one more problem that I can solve," and feel satisfied with. Now, people solve problems also to make money, also to move forward, blah blah blah. They have many other motives. Your motive gets satisfied when you solve a problem. Many a times when you think about these creative projects, you think about them, and just solving the problem is satisfying enough. I feel you shouldn't be judging yourself on everything. I feel there are some things when you set out your priorities very, very clear, and you are a person like that. Your priorities are very, very clear. When it comes to your work, you function in a certain manner. You not give excuses. You would not tell people things that were really tough for you and because of which I couldn't do. So not only excuses, but real problems. You would not bring it. You resolve them, beforehand, and then you show up to work. Now, with that kind of commitment, I do not see your work getting hampered with your inconsistencies. I feel your inconsistency is something where you should allow yourself to indulge a bit. That is an independent area. So, for example, have you met people who are in relationships, a very, very serious marriage or relationship, but they also go around flirting with people because they love flirting? They do not do that flirting as an exercise seriously. They just compliment somebody. They would just, crack a joke here and there. They just do it because they love that energy. And then they go back and they're very clear about their priority, about their family and the wife and the kids and all of that. So, literally, that flirtatious attitude can become your playful game. So look at it as a game. Don't make that as your project. Don't commit. So there's a difference between exploring and committing. And I think if you allow yourself to explore and you say, okay, I'm going to explore and figure out, but only when I'm convinced I will commit. The very moment you say, I commit to this, you change. You get into this completely work oriented professional mode. Whereas till the point you don't commit to yourself, you can flirt and explore any idea. If you give yourself that permission, or if you also add one more distinction between your work and play zone, it will help you because you need this. These are your breathers. If you don't read for a few days, it starts getting to you. If you do not do anything creative, it starts draining you. We're designed like that. So I always feel our job is to optimize the design that we are already.
That's wild. How did you know about the reading thing?
Because somebody who's intellectually strong and constantly requires stimulation in a creative way finds that to explore himself or herself. It's not only about what you do. So handwriting has taught me the patterns, which is like blueprints, but so many conversations with people have given me so many stories to connect to. So when I look at your handwriting, I also have so many references in my mind from the past where I found people like that. And those people also followed similar trait. Then I have seen the nuances in them, and for some reason, it just kind of comes alive.
But I think this is like this in the entire thing that you said is also, I have to, this does speak to my other trait that I know is that I get bored easily. And it's because once it stops stimulating me at the same level, I'm just not interested anymore. And I think like the thing that I need to work on is that like you need to carry on through that, because that peak will come again. And like I'm always looking for just the peak. I'm not okay with the low, but that's very dangerous.
So I read this book called The New Alchemist. Nothing to do with Paulo Coelho's Alchemist. It's New Alchemist, and this author speaks about how Mavericks kept on creating new learning curves, and how their learning curve is vertically steep instead of being horizontal. And he said exactly what you're talking about. He said they began the learning curve and they reached the maturity, what you're saying, the peak, and they did not like the decline. So before they could reach the peak and they started feeling, now I'm going to get it, they started, all of them have created new learning curves at that point.
Okay.
And then they continue to move forward. We recently did an episode called The Learning Curve, or Don't Flatten Your Learning Curve is the topic I'm just trying to remember. The episode is dedicated to see how do you learn. I think it would be really interesting for you to explore that, because
I think I will.
Learning and you love exploring, but sometimes you don't know where you should stop and where you should pick your new learning curves. And that's why I said you have to have adventurous life. You cannot have this straight, planned, everything structured life. I think you're trying to force yourself into that box. I have a feeling that you are that crayon which does not fit into this box to begin with.
You have turned my little analogy onto myself. But thank you. This has been very interesting. This really has been, and a bit almost disconcerting, because I mean, from when you don't know me, I don't know how many more times to say you don't know me. But this has been very accurate. You should definitely do this episode with Natasha as well.
I must. I'm curious now more than ever before. Yeah.
I want to be on the session, because I think I'm just going to be like, Dash, dude, she knows. She knows.
Okay, I think this was very, very different than any other episode we did till now. You know, I feel we never had somebody who was like, oh my God, stop it, don't do this. It was so much fun to look at the whole conversation like this. I'm so glad this happened.
Thank you so much. This was a great opportunity. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for being on this show.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
This conversation was one of a kind. It was a delight to observe Ayushi's reactions. And of course, Ayushi and I considered dating each other. You never know what all can happen in one episode of Absolutely Right. Jokes apart, I'm keen to know what were your takeaways from today's episode. What action will you be taking today to improve something in your life? Do write to me on my Instagram account at Aditi Surana. Lockdown is not the easiest thing. We all are feeling insecure in this uncertain time. Let's discuss insecurity in this week's Friday episode. Let's find some effective and easy ways to deal with these uncontrollable emotions. Let's do it in a rational manner without suppressing these emotions. What questions do you have around the topic of insecurity? I will share ways for us to investigate our fears a bit more, and ways to act upon things we require to with a calmer mind. Is it even possible? Yes. Let's connect on Friday and explore more. Till then, happy writing!
Beta, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
Way of family WhatsApp groups, worst nightmare. Where what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we're just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you can look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel,
and me, Tushar,
every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.
Do you wish you were smarter? Well, so do we. But the next best thing?
We could make you sound smarter.
And to help you with this endeavor, we are Simplified, a podcast that attempts to break down the complex world around you with a little knowledge, a lot of poor jokes, and a ton of random trivia.
Episodes out every Monday
On the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
See ya!